Today's a really happy day for me on the job, and it's not just because this is a really fun motorcycle, which it is, but there's so much more to it in terms of what this bike means for us as Indian enthusiasts. This is the Kawasaki KLX230, and the big deal here is that this is the first Japanese dual sport motorcycle that you can buy and register for use on our Indian roads. It is emissions compliant, it has a sari guard that is mandated by the rules, and while this motorcycle doesn't have it, it will have a front number plate and a rear number plate. Register it and use it on the road legally. That's a big deal. It's something we've been waiting and hoping for, and it never felt like it would actually happen, but it's happening. The second big deal is that Kawasaki is actually going through the pains of trying to bring this bike in at an affordable level. Now, if you've been reading Autocar for the last 6 to 8 months, you know we've reported that the KLX230 is coming. Some things have changed in that time. We thought it was a 230S, which had lower suspension, lower seat, less capability. It turns out they've brought the proper KLX230. We also informed you that Kawasaki is working on localizing this motorcycle to make it really affordable in India. That is something that's happening in the background, but Kawasaki is not yet ready with that project, which is why this bike will come to India as a CKD. It'll have components from Thailand, it'll have components from Indonesia and even Japan. How much is it going to cost? Well, Kawasaki isn't telling us. They will launch it probably at IBW early December. But I believe, and I'm given to understand, that this bike will be about 2.5 to 3 lakhs, somewhere there. Kawasaki is being quite aggressive. So it's capable, which I'll tell you about, it's going to be cost effective, and it's road legal. Now, let's get to the motorcycle. The KLX230 is a relatively simple off-roader. It's not a hardcore performance-oriented motorcycle. There are some serious professional riders here today where we're riding. We're at the Pro Dirt Academy. They have enjoyed themselves on this bike. It's not a sort of competition motorcycle as such, but even a pro rider can have a lot of fun. But what's really nice is that this bike is meant for more newbie, less experienced riders off-road. Now, I am really not a very good off-road rider, especially when you see these pro guys, and there's so much to learn, and this is the kind of bike I would want to learn on. The reasons are many, but let's start with the ergonomics. This is proper dirt bike off-road ergonomics. You have a long seat that goes right up to the fuel tank, and if you follow the technique correctly, you slide all the way up, put your weight forward, load the front end. That's what dirt bikes are all about. The foot peg ergonomics are also spot on. It's not an adventure sort of motorcycle that's more about comfort. It's not an X-Pulse either that's more about slightly commuter ergonomics. This is the right way to sit on a dirt motorcycle, and that's really nice. The second big deal is that this is a simple motorcycle. It's not a very powerful, aggressive thing. It's a 233cc air-cooled engine, 18 horsepower, 18 Newton meters of torque. It doesn't really sound very good, but off-road, today it has proven to be fast enough to be fun, but never fast enough to be scary. And again, from a beginner standpoint, from someone trying to get into off-road riding, that is exactly what you want. The other big deal is that this is a really light motorcycle. It's 139 kilos, fully fueled, which makes it probably the lightest 200-odd-cc motorcycle in the country, and definitely the lightest bike of its kind. The Himalayan, the KTM are all much heavier. Even the X-Pulse 210 is a good deal heavier than this, and lightweight is your friend off-road. So it's friendly, but that doesn't mean it's too basic, because you get a proper perimeter style frame, really nice looking unit, and this is again what you want to see in a dirt bike. So it's built for the purpose. And what we've done today, we rode around in circles just to get familiarized with the motorcycle. Then we rode through this tight tree-packed track, which was good fun, some nice jumps in there. And then we rode out on a faster circuit with loose gravelly surface. And really, I enjoyed myself on this bike because I wasn't intimidated by it. Suspension travel it's on the soft end, but it's good. It doesn't bottom out with a normal level of riding. It's non-adjustable suspension, it's pretty simple, but there's lots of travel. It's about 240 mm at the front, 250 mm at the rear, lots of ground clearance, over 250 mm ground clearance. The downside is that seat is really tall. That is the way with dirt bikes. We cannot complain about it. That's just how they are by function. But while this is an 880 mm seat height, I have to say it's not as frightening as it sounds. And that's again by design of what dirt bikes are. So it's really very slim. And I've talked to riders here who are about 5'7", and they say that they are able to manage. You do need to be on one side, but that's just the way it is with dirt bikes. It's not something you should be complaining about. And I can tell you that this is a bike that even shorter riders can adapt to. One of the reasons it's so slim is that because it has a really small fuel tank. It's only 7.6 liters, definitely the smallest petrol tank on any road legal Indian motorcycle, maybe apart from the Bajaj CNG bike. But it's a small fuel tank, but also promises to be a very efficient engine, so I don't think the fuel tank size is going to be a big problem. Of course, you won't really be touring on this motorcycle. That's not what it's about. The seat is quite narrow and uncomfortable. The engine surely won't be about high speeds. Even though there's a 6-speed gearbox for the engine, I don't think this is going to be very comfortable at high speeds. Now, the unfortunate thing is that despite the fact that this is a road legal bike, we haven't actually been able to ride it out on the road today. That will continue when we get the bike back home, but from what I can tell, it's a pretty light clutch, light feeling, so I think this will be a really nice motorcycle to commute on in the city as well and then ride out to the trails on the weekend. Now, we've ridden the bike for a few hours today off-road, and when I think about it, there's really not very much I'd want to modify or think needs improvement on this motorcycle. The one thing that came to mind are the tires. These are localized, they're MRF tires. They're actually not bad, and the rear is actually quite grippy, especially in this soft, muddy material out here at Pro Dirt. There's a lot of grip, and while you do feel the bike move around, that's a good learning exercise to get familiar with a dirt bike squirming around underneath you. But when we went out on the more gravelly stuff with the bigger pebbles, I didn't find much confidence in the front. I think it could do with a better front tire, maybe lower pressures, but again, it's a small thing, it's an easy upgrade, and I really wouldn't complain about anything else. The suspension, the brakes, they all work well. There's also a small button out here. Long press it, you'll be able to turn off the ABS. It's a dual channel ABS system and it turns off the ABS at both ends. Now, again, front ABS deactivated might not be nice for beginner novice riders, but this bike is so light that you'll be able to manage. On the topic of features, well, this is meant to be a very lightweight, simple, uncomplicated machine, so you shouldn't expect too much and you don't get too much, but there is a decent amount of stuff here as well. For example, there's a very nice looking LED headlamp. I don't know how well it works at night, but it looks good. You've also got a small LCD display. There is the luxury of having a clock there, that's nice, but not much else. Trip A, Trip B, speed, odometer. You don't even have a gear position indicator, but that's okay. Dual channel ABS, as I mentioned, and very basic switchgear. You don't even get a high beam flash switch. There are some accessories. Kawasaki will give you a USB charger, a luggage rack for the back, but simple bike, and that's okay. On the topic of spoked wheels, something people get quite worked up about in India, and rightly so. Obviously, this bike is running on tube tires, and on an adventure bike, you would want the option of tubeless wheels, but here tube tires are better because you're riding off-road, you bend the wheel, the tube still holds the air. If you're running tubeless and you bend the wheel, that's it. You've lost all the air and you don't really have much of an option except to install a tube in there. So on a bike like this, these wheels are the right type of wheels to have. In general, the weight on this motorcycle is quite a bit higher than the Kawasaki KLX230 RS. That is the non-road legal version of this bike. It's been available in India for a while as a CBU, but it's 5.2 lakh rupees, lots of money. This will cost a lot less. It will bring in some more weight, but that's really a trade-off that's okay to make. Overall, I'm just really happy that this bike exists. It's so nice that Kawasaki is the first manufacturer to take that initiative and bring this to the market. Of course, there is no doubt that this will be a fairly niche motorcycle in its appeal, and I still think that Kawasaki will attract a wider crowd if they were to also bring in the less intimidating KLX230S, which has a lower seat height. But even so, this is a great start. The price should not be too high. It will definitely be higher than an X-Pulse. It will be closer to the KTM and the Himalayan from what I'm told, but for what you're getting, it's a really quality motorcycle. The engine feels tough. We've been sitting at high RPMs all day, no sign of distress. It's smooth. It's a Japanese motorcycle and it is what you would expect. Let's wait for the final price to come out, but from now, I'm really excited about this and I would like to spend some time living with it. I want to commute on it. I want to take it out on the weekends and just have fun, because that is what the KLX230 is all about.